I became a little nervous when Mr. Maurice asked how old I was, but I replied with confidence, "I'm 11 years old, sir, and a very good worker." Mr. Maurice replied that he didn't have a route for me because the routes were too long for an 11-year-old. I said, "Well, can you make one for me, sir?" I was determined to get a job delivering papers, so I kept going back every day to ask if he had found that route for me. Each time I returned, he would say, "Son, no, I have no work for someone your age." Imagine my surprise the day I walked in and Mr. Maurice told me he had created a route especially for me. My tenacity paid off. I finally got my own paper route. My special route went from 79th Street to 81st Street between Evans and Langley, delivering in the alleys, tossing onto the back porches. Man, I had a real job, but I treated it like my own business. I memorized the paper prices and what I anticipated my weekly pay to be. Most customers took the daily and Sunday papers for 65 cents a week. The Sunday papers could also be sold separately for 20 cents. You could also get insurance for 5 cents. For every paper I delivered, I received 10 cents, but the key to getting your pay was to collect the money from the customers and turn it in. My route included 20 papers, making my weekly pay $2. I knew I would be the best paper boy in Chicago, and I couldn't wait to get started. Now that I landed the job, the next challenge I faced was getting permission from my parents, even though I had accepted the position. I knew my mom said yes to the vegetable truck, but this was different. I would be working 7 days a week. I let my sister in on my plan first because I knew it wouldn't work without her help. My chores had to be done, and I had to ensure that she would be willing to do them. She was younger than me, but had a no-nonsense, non-negotiable approach when it came to getting paid. I began the negotiations at 10 cents for every week of dishwashing that she would do for me. That was not a good deal for her, and she demanded to be paid a nickel each time she had to wash my dishes. She was tough, but I loved her confidence. Here, my baby sister stood less than 4 feet tall, needing the assistance of a stool to reach the sink, and she was dictating to me what she was going to be paid. She knew that it wouldn't work without her, and there was nothing I could do, so I hesitantly agreed. I knew she would be taking more than I wanted to give, but she did teach me to always get paid my worth. I'll never forget the night I asked my parents. My mother intensely listened as I made my plea. Now I want to say that she understood her precocious child and emphasized with my desire to work, but that's not what happened. My mom looked at me and then looked at my dad and said, "Absolutely not." Sad yet determined, I began thinking how I could turn that no into a yes. As much as I loved my mother, I knew we had reached an impasse. Whenever there was a problem in the Lewis household, Dad always made the final decision. I couldn't let her negative reply stop me, so I went over her head by asking him. I explained to him once again, this time adding more detail. I told him why I would make the best paper boy, how I would not let this job interfere with school, and that I would still be accountable for my household chores. He heard my plan and said yes. 3 days later, I started my paper route, and in the first week, I received a $2 salary and $1 in tips. I paid my sister what I owed, and I gave the rest to my mom to save. A couple of weeks later, I was happily collecting money from my customers on Saturday morning. I was about to go inside a 2-flat building where I had to be buzzed in for entry. Before I could get through the door, there were 2 guys who rushed behind me, trapped me in the vestibule. They beat me up and took all the money that I had collected. I was so upset and filled with adrenaline that I bypassed the job and ran straight home. My mom was the first to notice my bloody nose. You would have thought that I had been shot and seriously injured the way she began to yell and scream, especially to my dad, saying, I knew he shouldn't have taken that paper route. Look at him. Look at my baby. I tried to calm her down by telling her I was okay. I was just a bit shaken. My dad didn't say a word. He knew he just had to wait it out and let my mother calm down. Despite it all, the most important part was that I got to keep my paper route. I never missed a day that I was scheduled to work. I think back when the city had weeks after weeks of freezing temperatures. I had to deliver papers in the nastiest of Chicago weather. Some of the guys would call in when it was too cold, and they just never showed up again. Not me. I loved delivering papers to make money. I would wrap myself up in layers, plaster my face with Vaseline, and make frequent stops in local stores or keep warm by taking longer breaks inside the hallways of the buildings where I delivered. I was on a mission, and no rain, sleet, or snow could stop me. Over the course of the next 5 years, my paper route responsibilities would increase. I went from 20 papers to 50 and finally 100. By 16 years of age, I was running everything in that area from Mr. Darnell Hawkins, the branch owner. I became the man, making over $32 a week. During those times, $32 for a teenager was considered good money. There were 40 routes, and I divided them into 4 separate zones. I placed a branch captain who reported directly to me over each one. The boundaries spread from as far north as 71st Street and as far south as 95th Street, then east on Greenwood Avenue and west on State Street. I did my best to be a good boss and always look for ways to help my team make additional money. Selling vegetables, delivering groceries, cashing in bottles, and delivering papers were just the beginning of my entrepreneurial endeavors. By the time I had graduated from high school, I had saved up $3,700, which today would be the equivalent of almost $33,000. Make this chapter interactive by asking yourself these questions. Question 1. What have you done to start small but go big? Question 2. Where have you seen the angles to create opportunities and profits? Question 3. What calculated risk can you take right now? Question 4. Are you keeping your expenses low? Question 5. Are you delegating lesser, cheaper activities to others? Question 6. What opportunities will pay you the most? Question 7. What opportunities will pay you for your results? Question 8. What opportunities will give you the freedom to set your own hours and control your own destiny? Question 9. What is your current expertise in, and what can you do to increase it? Question 10. What tools, equipment, or gear will you need to make more money? The takeaways. Entrepreneurs recognize opportunity and take great risk to profit from their ideas. Although they may invent something entirely new, most entrepreneurs improve something that already exists. Entrepreneurs have almost a sixth sense about people and their buying habits. Regardless of how excited they are by ideas, successful entrepreneurs look at both sides strategically. If I could get excited about the vegetable truck at the age of 8, I know there's something you can get excited about right now. What is it?